What I enjoy about fashion and moreover style is the ability to illustrate a sense of self-expression without opening your mouth. From across the room, you're able to share your personality by way of wearing things a certain way and pairing things together. This sort of expression packaged as style is embodied by this week's guest, Bruce Liles. I actually interviewed Bruce for a class of mine in college, and to this day I can still say I have met very few people in my life that toe the line of confident yet demure quite like Bruce. As the son of a retail manager, Bruce dove headfirst into the style pool. He later followed in his father's footsteps, and for the last 25 years, Bruce has owned and operated one of only a few boutiques in North Carolina that truly offers fine menswear. His kind nature is evident in the way he speaks, and I really enjoyed sitting down with him again after all of these years. I'm your host, Wesley Smith, and you're listening to the Standard Age Podcast. Mr. Bruce Liles, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Wesley.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you again.
Been 20 years since I last interviewed you, which is just a hoot and a holler for me.
Welcome back. Seems like yesterday.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yes.
Entrepreneurship class for NC State University. I interviewed you, and I think it was mainly due to the fact that I think we had to interview like 10 people of local businesses, and I think it had to be along the lines of like industries we were, interested in, and revolving around the business plans that we were supposed to write. And of course, I wrote my business plan on a clothing line. And
of course.
I think we were chit-chatting about that. Although I think I saw you one time in between, and we were talking about socks.
I think so. I think you were living in L.A. at the time.
Yeah, I was in L.A.
again.
And I think I was in here with my dad, but we started talking about Pantherella and
yes,
all those kinds of things. But really appreciate you taking the time.
Well, thank you.
It's great to see you, as I said. For those listening, you have a shop here in the North Hills Shopping Center of Raleigh.
That's correct.
Called Liles Clothing Studio. How old is the business?
The business is officially we started 25 years ago. We moved to North Hills 14 years ago from our humble strip mall beginnings. We felt North Hills was the direction that Raleigh was taking, and all eyes would be on North Hills, which fortunately I seem to have guessed right, because it has done nothing but grow here.
That's awesome. Now, when you first opened the store, let's go a little bit further back, in fact. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in the Carolinas in a small town of Hamlet, North Carolina. Moved to Raleigh to work for the Hub Limited, which is store that is no longer here, but it was at the time pretty cutting edge for this area. We pioneered a lot of European designers. We were one of the first in the country to have Hugo Boss and one of the first in the country to have Zegna. So we did pioneer a lot of designers back in the day. Left the Hub, saw it was not being managed correctly, left with a partner. The partner turned out to be one of the ones not managing it correctly. So we left the partner behind and moved on from there.
So that partnership became Liles Clothing Studio?
That is correct.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that was 25 years ago?
That was 25 years ago, yes.
Now, did you take lines with you as a result? Like, were you carrying Hugo Boss? And
No, we took a few lines, but we kind of pioneered some lines of our own. Back in the day, one of our premier lines was Vestimenta, which made the black label Armani, but that was their own label. That line has since gone out, but at the time it was a pretty edgy line for Raleigh and pretty fashion forward, I would say.
Sure.
And then we started developing a little bit of custom business. First, we used our friend Jack Simpson, and he was using Martin Greenfield in Brooklyn. We've tried several different manufacturers, but grown from there, and the made-to-measure part of our business has grown considerably, where it's now, if not a majority, it's now at least half our business.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
That probably makes the buy a little easier.
It does. It does. We can certainly filter out and curate what we're getting in a lot better, and kind of having special items built around our made-to-measure. But we're very fortunate. We found some lines that are pretty unique and have very few points of sale in the country. So
Sure.
we feel that helps make us stand out, and not just a regional sort of way.
So I'll ask about the customer a little bit later, but so have you always been into clothing and apparel, even as a young guy?
Yes, I was kind of the dandy in grade school.
Oh, really?
And
What were you wearing to school?
I remember a pair of bright orange pants I had, and people saying, "You're the only one that could get away with those."
That's awesome. So full on dandy.
Yes,
In
yes.
the raging metropolis of Hamlet.
Yes, that's exactly, exactly.
That's great.
Yes.
Now, Hamlet, remind me, what's the closest? Is that down towards Charlotte?
It's down.
Or am I
The closest town to it is Rockingham. It's
Okay,
about
Rockingham.
75 miles east of Charlotte. It's in it's right on the North South Carolina border. It was a railroad town, a major stop for the railroads, and that's its whole existence.
Was your dad in the railroad business?
No, he was he ran a department store. He managed a department store, so
So that was sort of
that's
your
my
foray.
kind of growing up around the business.
Okay. He's selling menswear.
Mm-hmm.
And did your mom work?
Mom was in education her whole life. Started out as a teacher, went on to college admissions, and became admissions director at a couple of prestigious ladies' colleges on the East Coast.
Gotcha.
So
you
she
came
bounced
up
around a little bit.
Through
Right.
school in that sort of environment.
Right,
Now,
exactly.
did you end up going to university?
Went to a small college. Went to St. Andrews, which was near Hamlet. But
So what was sort of the main course of study there?
I majored in art history there.
Oh, cool.
So I've always been interested in art, and I like kind of taking the creative aspect of art and applying it to what we do in clothing.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with like the linings of jackets and
Yes,
stuff like
yes.
that. Yeah. What were some of the artists that you sort of gravitated towards?
I love Picasso.
Okay.
So a lot of the contemporary artists of the mid 20th century.
Sure. Yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So then when you came up to work for the Hub, how did they recruit you, or how did you find out about that job?
I came searching. I knew I wanted to make a career in clothing. I knew I couldn't do it in the small town and the way I wanted to do it. So I came to Raleigh, being
The
one
bigger
of the nearer
city.
big cities around, and just
Yeah.
started searching around.
Sure. Well, that's great. So then when you launched Liles 25 years ago, what were some of the brands that you were carrying then that were kind of, edgy at the time, you were saying?
Well, I think Vestimenta is kind of the first edgy line we put in. We were very, very traditional to open up, and we did a few private label bands, but probably we did Nick Hilton as one of, which is very traditional, but it was a nice updated traditional line. And that was kind of our whole deal then. Ike Bahar, when they were first making a big name for themselves, but
Sure.
but kind of the updated sort of look. And then we started dabbling in some of the European lines, and that's where we found a lot of success.
So early days, I would imagine some of that client book from the Hub came to follow you from a personal standpoint.
That's exactly right. It's it was definitely a word of mouth business. Our first location was strictly destination.
So no foot traffic.
Right, exactly.
Right. Because I don't think I had ever been to that location. I'd only been to this store.
No, you pretty much would have had to have known us from the hub
Yeah.
to have found us there.
To come find you.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, that's great.
But I built up quite a nice sales book at the hub and brought most of those clients with us.
So 25 years is a long time. I would imagine some of those hub clients are probably retired by this point now.
Quite a few, but we still have people coming in showing off some hub labels that they're wearing. So
oh, no way? That's great.
It's very, very interesting. We've had people shopping with us from the beginning. Some of our original clients are bringing in their sons to shop with us now.
Sure.
So
that's incredible.
It's nice. I'm really getting excited about the younger generation and a lot of the interest they're showing in and actually finer clothes. So they're studying, they're listening, they're following like your podcast and Instagram and such, and they're finding out everything they can about the about the clothing.
So what's your overall impression of even just the retail market at this point? Like from a brick and mortar standpoint? Like
from a brick and mortar standpoint, we have to make ourselves stand out. Service and explanation of the product. I've always felt that a lot of the growth of the internet for shopping has been not taking business away from stores, but have been caused by stores not servicing their clients. And and if you're not getting service in the store, you might as well be shopping online. Right. So that's where we've distinguished ourselves. And with a large part of our made-to-measure and custom business have also been things that really can't be translated online.
Sure.
We've seen a few people try some pretty basic made-to-measure garments online. I have not seen any that worked out.
Now, your made-to-measure program is mainly in conjunction with, like, what label? Are you running through labels?
We run some through, we do some private label, and we run some through some major houses, but we also do some, we do Ravazzolo, which is a Northern Italian line, very elegant, crisp, almost a Milanese look. We're very happy to have Orazio Luciano, which is, to me, one of the sexiest garments around inside of Naples.
Yeah.
I think one thing about the South, I think we relate to the Southern Italian way of dressing very well here. It's kind of a gentlemanly tradition. We like less structured clothing just because of our weather. We like brighter colors just because of all the sunlight we get per year.
So you're carrying mostly Italian or Italian-influenced type of fits?
Quite a bit.
So not so much English, not a roped shoulder, not
a roped shoulder, no. I guess the English line we are most excited about has really become more of an international line, and that's Drake's. But
oh, sure.
Certainly we do those for the accessories, and but they have almost an Italian feel to their neckwear. It's a lot less structured.
Sure. No, I'd agree.
A lot of the English lines.
100%. Yeah. Well, that's great. So let's talk a little bit about your customer, obviously, because you're kind of alluding to old school guys and then their kids and, that sort of thing. Like I would imagine your sales are pretty across the board from an age demographic standpoint because of that.
I think we're very fortunate to have that age range. Just past couple of weeks when I was back from market, waiting on a couple of young men that were too young for us to pour them a bourbon in here, which we like to do. So
right.
And then I have quite a few clients that are been shopping with me for 30 years. So it's the age range is quite broad.
Now, have you find these guys that have been with you for so long, have they been able to adapt and sort of, because silhouettes change and then our bodies change, right? So, but that's the good news behind Made to Measure is that
yes.
With that, you can kind of change as your body changes. But have you found that the customer here in Raleigh, or, I would imagine you probably service people outside of Raleigh quite a
few. So, several of our clients work, and some of them live in New York. Several work in and live in the weekdays in D.C. We have clients California, Pennsylvania, Florida.
So this is all a testament to the word of mouth you spoke of.
Right. We have a lot of Raleigh, being the type of city it is, has a lot of people passing through, and a lot of them gear their shopping to when they are passing through.
That's fantastic. Well, major congrats on that.
Well, thank you.
That's not easy to do.
Thank you.
But what I was alluding to, I guess, to a certain degree is like, have you found that your customer has kind of grown with you as silhouettes have changed and things? I mean, some of that they can't really be too choosy because an apparel company is only going to make the certain silhouette that they're going to make. So they, in turn, give you the choices to choose from. But have your customers kind of evolved that way? Because, I mean, stereotypically, Raleigh's fairly conservative.
I would say yes, they have. Most of our clients that have been with us for a long time many of them are retiring or getting to the stage in their wardrobes where maybe they're not as suit oriented and they're wearing more jeans and casual trousers with a soft structured jacket like a Bolioli or a ring jacket or some less structured line like that. So that's a major part of our business of I'd say the aging clientele, and then the younger guys seem to be more suit driven because they're beginning their careers, or they're buying suits for social occasions. We do a lot of wedding business, for example.
Oh, sure, yeah. Well, I've kind of joked in a previous podcast that like there's only two guys in LA that wear a suit, and that's a lawyer or an agent.
Yes.
Is there any commonality or sort of how many people are wearing suits now here in Raleigh?
Well,
your clients aren't just strict to Raleigh, obviously, but
right. But I don't know that I see that many wearing them on a daily basis. But our suit business is still it's a major part of our business, and I think as some stores seem to have abandoned that suit business, it's helped our suit business grow even more.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because, I mean, obviously trends come and go.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think the focus of suiting kind of comes and goes to a certain level, and I feel like it's certainly on the uptick these days. I would feel like 10 years ago it was kind of having a hot moment. You know, I just remember when I was writing my blog, it was called Screaming Mouth. It's shout out to my old blog that's still online somewhere deep in the throes of the internet. But, you know, double monk straps in 2008 and 2007 and back then, you know, was really hot, and then guys were wearing those sockless with suits, and then maybe there was sort of a nosedive of suits maybe in the last 5 years. Generally speaking, you know, streetwear has become popular, but now I'm seeing somewhat of an uptick. You know, I subscribe to The Rake, for example, and, you know, with Matt Hranik's magazine, W.M. Brown, there's this focus on menswear, which is one of the reasons why I really wanted to talk to you because A, it's been 20 years, and B, just I really wanted to get your point of view of that type of shift. Like, do you see the uptick, or is it just standard practice?
I think we definitely do. I think that period you're talking about, it was there was a lot of focus on madmen. Suits were slim, lapels were narrow, ties were narrow. It was collar bars and white pocket squares, and it was a kind of a rigid suit, and that probably, as a reaction, gave rise to streetwear. But I think what we're seeing now is more of a celebration of the art of the suit. We have people coming in and saying that, look, I want a suit that doesn't make me look like a corporate shill. You know, I want something that is, you know, that is celebratory. And we have plenty of guys who don't need to wear suits for work, but still are buying their suits and really working with the minutiae of the details. And, you know, they notice, let's say, a hand-basted Neapolitan buttonhole, or, you know, the function of the sleeve buttons, or how the rope shoulder, or how the spalacamicia, like the shirt sleeve shoulder, how the little gathers. And and that's a romance to them. They're really getting into the idea of all the hand details in the clothing, and it's amazing how so many people who are not in this business are really getting into the fit. We get calls for, I want high armholes. Well, how do you even know that? Where do you study things like that? But once you do study it, that's some more comfortable type of suit to wear, as well as being more flattering. So,
What types of outlets would you recommend then for that type of education? If somebody say can't come in here and get it from the horse's mouth, where do you usually send people to go do their research?
well, I think you can certainly find, as you mentioned, the Rake or W.M. Brown. I think you certainly find it on that, and find good examples of styling directions. I think yours and other podcasts that with a one-on-one talk with people that are in the know. You've talked to several other people that I've listened to that are quite knowledgeable in what they do. So, certainly the right Instagrams to follow. You can study a lot of details there. You can see a lot about silhouettes, and I think you start getting the feel to things.
Are you a watch collector but having trouble finding something cool and unique? I mean, the last thing you really want is what everyone else has, right? Well, this is where my friend and former Standard H podcast guest Tim Jackson comes in. He and his wife Jana own Passion Fine Jewelry in Solana Beach, California, where you'll find an incredible assortment of independent watches waiting for you in their shop and online. And if you're getting engaged, have an anniversary coming up, or simply have another reason to buy jewelry, they have you covered. Passion Fine Jewelry also employs a goldsmith on staff for any custom desires, so you're able to go that route if you so choose. Visit Passion Fine Jewelry when you find yourself in Southern California, but they're also open 24 hours a day at passionfinejewelry.com. You can also find a wealth of information through Tim's blog, independentintime.com, where he covers anything independent watchmaking related, among a plethora of other information, so check that out as well. I've really enjoyed creating these podcasts on behalf of Standard H and sharing each of these personal stories with all of you. We each have goals, and it's the entrepreneurial spirit that inspired me to start the company. You can further support the brand and the podcast by visiting standard-h.com to pick up your choice of merchandise, and as always, thank you for listening. Lastly, if you have a moment, please rate and review the show. It makes a tremendous difference in keeping these things going. Now back to my conversation with Bruce. How has your personal style evolved over time, do you think, from the orange pants days?
Quite a bit. So, I know I've toned down my color sense a little bit. I've really come to appreciate things growing old, and I see how I can look at some older garments in my wardrobe, and the quality ones I still pull out, I still wear. The styling may not be the most up-to-date, but they feel very, very comfortable. I get very heartened when I see, say, a photo of Ralph Lauren wearing a jacket he's obviously had for 30 years. I think the guy can afford a new jacket.
Yeah.
But he appreciates the quality, the style, and the age. So I think getting that kind of vintagey touch, even if it's from your own vintage, I think that helps.
Sure.
And I think that's one thing I've really understood to see. And the more I find out how things are made, the more particular I'm getting on the quality that goes into them.
So what are maybe one or two of those kind of telltale details? Where do you look?
Well, you can certainly, on a jacket, for example, to take it inside out, look for the hand stitching, look for the hand on the shoulder, look how the collar's attached, look how the sleeves are attached. You look at the side seams on the outside and pattern matching, such. Never a pattern match on the shoulder, but always a pattern match on the sleeves and the sides where possible. And so those are some telltale details. Shirts, it can be, I like to have the collar on the shirt having a nice little roll to it, just the right softness to it. There's no puckering on the seams. So I think those are all details that really count. Love on the trouser, looking on the inside of the waistband, the hand pleating, with the inside waistband.
Sure. Yeah, that's great. So when considering, I mean, obviously you guys carry some really fine clothing here. What are some of the brands that you guys have been carrying over the years, and what's in the shop now, for example?
Well, we do certainly have some mainstream lines like a Samuelson and the Eaton shirts, which are always, which are certainly good for what they are. But yeah, we're very pleased to be one of only a handful of stores to have Ring Jacket, which is the wonderful line out of Japan, which does a very good job of mimicking Neapolitan tailoring. We're one of a very small handful that have Orazio Luciano, one of a few that have 100 hands, for example. We do some beautiful tie lines, Marinella, as well as Drake's and Biggie Milano. We do a little bit of Keaton. So we're always on the lookout for the next thing.
Sure. Yeah, that's great. So what are kind of the directives you're giving this younger crowd that's coming in? Like are they coming in saying, look, I don't own a suit. They're coming here for their first suit, or are you finding that, hey, I've just done a bunch of research and I need that navy 3-rolled too, that whole thing? Like what is kind of the commonality?
Well, we are getting a lot of young men getting their first suit. So we direct them to something to go quality, to go conservative in fabric and cut, nothing that's going to make it look too dated, but certainly get the best quality you can afford, which I think is always a good mantra. Not everyone can start out affording a $4,000 handmade suit, for example, but
sure.
But whatever price range it's in, it should be the best make in that range. Like classic style, but with a little personality. Fond of a little broader lapel. Your aforementioned 3-on-2 is a favorite. I like. I'm personally fond of double-breasteds, and I think it's a fallacy that many people feel they can't wear them. Look at any gathering of men in an old picture from the 1930s, and short, broad, tall men all wearing double-breasted, and I think it can be a terrific look. We're increasingly doing a lot of 3-piece suits, waistcoats on them, and double-breasted waistcoats, which can be a natty little touch. There are individual things you can do on a suit that we promote, not necessarily for the first suit, but for an initial suit.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I'd say it's all pretty sound advice.
Yes.
Where do you kind of see the industry going? Are there any predictions?
I do see. I think the trend towards casual wear is about to bottom out. Even on casual clothes, I see jeans a little dressier. I do see some sport coats taking the place of casual coats, and some suits taking the place of sport coats, and I think it'll start to swing around a little bit. Sneakers, I think, have just about topped out where they're going to be. They're not going away, certainly, but I don't think the whole world's going to be wearing sneakers with suits.
I hope not.
Like I see on so many bad award shows.
Yeah, I'm with you. Speaking of footwear, you guys have a pretty robust collection. What are some of the shoes that you guys have?
We carry a couple of Italian lines. Santoni and Scarpe di Bianco are, I would say, our premier two Italian lines. And we also do a very nice job with Alden to have an American representation.
Sure.
We do some Badwan and Lang slippers, Albert slippers. Uh, So that's one of our English representations. As we had mentioned before, we're still doing some Barker Black, which is a little Englishy, but with a little bit of edge, a little bit of rock and roll to it.
Yep. So you mentioned you were at a market. Where do you attend markets these days?
Mostly New York and Chicago. Occasionally trips to Italy, but we find that most of the best Italian vendors and British vendors do travel to New York, where I can meet with them.
Sure.
But certainly, PD's an experience which I think anybody in this business should at least travel to, whether they have a serious buying visit there or not. It's a fascinating thing to see.
Yeah, definitely a bucket list.
Yes,
for
yes.
sure. So, and you also made brief mention of some private label stuff. How do you orchestrate that typically? Like, what is the process behind that?
Well, our private label, we try to not focus on having so much bringing something in the cheapest we can bring it in and taking a long markup is how I see some people approach private label. We try finding something unique and creating something that we then put our own label on. We've had for example, some collaborations with New England Shirt out of Falls River, Massachusetts, with Hurtling Trousers out of Brooklyn, where they create things, based on some of our whims and styling touches.
Oh, that's really cool. So instead of just knocking something off and doing the markup, you're just literally making things that you haven't found.
Right, exactly. Maybe you want a trouser with a slimmer leg but a little longer rise, which is very difficult to find in the market.
Yeah.
Or you want side tabs on a trouser, or some such touch as that. Maybe you want a metal button on a shirt instead of a pearl button.
So do you guys, speaking of like wants and desires that you can't find in the marketplace, and knowing that you guys do made to measure, you do this little bit of private label as well.
Mm-hmm. What
does your online business look like? Do you guys do much online?
We currently don't have any online business.
So none at all?
None at all. I do explore it. I will only approach it if we can mirror a part of our customer service representation online, which is always a challenge for me to find out how to do it.
Right, that's the goal too,
yes,
for everybody,
yes,
really.
Yes. So when we can offer something unique online, we'll take the plunge. But right now, I'd rather have it right than rush into it.
Sure.
I see online as, for some of the better stores, being more of a gateway, being more how people can look at what a store offers before they come in and get the full experience. But certainly the full experience is correct. The main challenge we have is people that travel through here and shop, and they can want to continue shopping when they go back home to another part of the country.
Sure. Have you thought about expanding beyond the one store?
We have thought before, but I feel that the best way for us to do the next expansion would be to try an online business.
I see. Yeah, I mean, I guess it'd be easier to manage from the one location.
Yes,
it's hard to manage other people when they're not in your backyard.
It is very difficult, and to have the staff and to have them do the service that I like to have given is very difficult to do from afar.
Sure. Yeah.
But having said that, if the right partner approached us, I think we could certainly consider it, but it would be more of a partnership thing, I think, than trying to expand my empire.
Right. Sure. And the implication behind that would be just ownership as well as operation?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, but so far we're just all local, independently operated. So we like that. We built ourselves up by the bootstraps and have a clean ownership. So we do like that part about it.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah. What is the size of the team up to these days?
We have.
We heard a sewing machine going off in the
we
background
have,
earlier.
We have one gentleman who is my buying partner, head of the tailor shop, and top salesman, and helps me manage the store. We pretty much co-manage the store. We have another tailor that comes in part-time and fills in where he cannot. We have two that are full-time on the sales floor. We have one who is comes in and does receiving, marking, putting out merchandise, matching up orders, and we have my longtime associate who has been in the office with me, and another person in the office. So our team is steadily growing.
That's great.
Yes.
That's awesome. And what are you doing in your free time these days? What do you like to do when you're not working?
I love traveling. With the work I do, we don't get to travel as much as we would like, but we do travel every opportunity we can.
Where was the last place you went that was gangbusters?
Well, we love taking short trips, basically like a long weekend to Charleston. We have gone to Italy for the past several years, at least once a year. Florence, Rome. We go to Paris some. We are making a trip out to your neck of the woods. I would say we're going to go to Palm Springs come this spring. So
Oh, good.
So see that part of the country for a change.
Yeah, sure. There's some great hiking there if you're into hiking, which not a lot of people are aware of. Yeah, Palm Springs got some great hiking, actually. Of course, golf, tennis,
Yes.
those things, of course. But
So at home, pretty much hang at the house. I enjoy cooking. Like to have a little sip of bourbon and a cigar at night. So,
what's your go-to cigar?
Probably an Upton.
Okay. And do you have a go-to bourbon?
Jump around to a few. I like. I'm currently having a Four Roses small batch, which a friend brought back. That's not sold in this area. So North Carolina has somewhat antiquated liquor laws in that the state controls the sales. So sometimes I have to travel for a good selection.
Sure. Have you gotten into like the Japanese stuff?
I've tried a little bit of the Japanese, and I've had a lot of Scotch, but I'm kind of wandering back to bourbon.
Still the bourbon.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing to be ashamed about there. It's good stuff. Well, that's fantastic. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Well, thank you. Thank you for talking to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Was there anything else that you wanted to promote or talk about?
I think you've hit on some great topics, some great subjects. I do appreciate it. I feel honored you've chosen us, and feel like we're in very good company.
Sure. Well, thank you very much. Bruce, always good to see you.
Okay. Thank you, Wesley.
All right. We'll chat soon.
I appreciate it.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Take care.
All right.
I'd like to thank Bruce again for having me in store to chat a bit about his story as well as his views on the menswear scene as a whole. As always, big thanks to Clear Audio for the use of their noise-canceling headphones and to Jensen Reed and Super Beautiful for the theme music. And until next week, thank you so much for listening to the Standard Age podcast. Bye, everyone.